I am not proud of the fact that my most recent pizza delivery was $70.
Wowzers. My sister said, Heather, if you die on me, I'll kill you. Noted, sis.
Hey, sis. The blossoms are coming out and they don't cost a dime. Spring is springing.
I finally pickled my peppers and it was perfectly pleasant.
Have such a good day. Hello, world. Welcome back to another fun-filled edition of Have Such a Good Day. It's episode 90. And
damn, Gina.
I know. Hey, bring out the Martin refs.
We hope you're having such a good day so far.
Yeah, we are. It's the day is young, Heather.
And it's sure getting springy out there. Blossoms and daffodils. And I'm really excited. It's just a new beginning.
It's funny, we don't have any daffodils here. I wish we did because they're such pleasant
oh my gosh,
plants.
I'm so in love with them.
There is a beautiful cherry tree. It's really hard to explain, but it's because the property is kind of on a hill. So there's the property and then there's some sort of trees and just general brush that kind of come down off of this fence. Mm-hmm. And it's pretty. It kind of provides a buffer between us and the street. Mm-hmm. But most of it is just kind of ivy and whatever. But there's a cherry tree. And I didn't realize last year when it bloomed, I was like, oh, that's pretty, whatever it is. And my landlord was like, that's a cherry tree. Yeah, I've been like picking cherries.
That's
but
amazing.
It's hard to get to. It's planted in a really funny place where it's like, I mean, sure, you can put on, your like hiking boots and get to it. But I'm like, who planted the cherry tree there?
That's really
Rather
cool.
than like, next to the pool or something where you might be walking
Maybe
already.
the landscape was different back then, when they planted it.
It's possible, yeah. It's a really pretty tree in any case.
Is it blooming?
It is, yeah. It's all blossoming. It was kind of the first tree. I think cherry trees are they start early.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know it doesn't last that long, but blossoms make me feel alive or remind myself that I am.
Oh yeah, me too. We have a bunch, and we have our plum trees are blossoming right now, and some of our cherry trees haven't blossomed yet, but we have a bunch on our property, and it reminds me of. I always wanted to go to Japan during like the cherry blossom spring, but I'm like, this property has so many of them and it's so magical. I'm like, I mean, I have them here. So like, I'm not sure I need to go all the way across the world to experience it. But I will say
it's sort of like when you're from California and you're like, we should go to Bali for the beaches. And you're like, well, I mean, you could, but you could also do that way closer to home.
It's very true.
I went to Japan in April, blossom season back in the day. It's the only time I've been to Japan, but it was, we had, the whole point was to be there for blossoms. And it was pretty magical.
I hear it's pretty phenomenal.
It's pretty
there's
magical.
So many close together. So like it creates this like aura.
Tokyo alone is, huge city, lots of parks.
Yeah.
Lots of blossoms.
Yeah, I'd love to do it. I know it's on a different level. It's on a different scale. But it's funny. I've always appreciated daffodils, but I have a whole new appreciation for them because, we have a lot of the bulbs that have been underground for years that just pop up every year. And it's one of the only things that blooms as early as January. Yeah. And it's so magical. It's like what you were saying about blossoms. It's like it makes you feel alive. It perks you up for a new year. And what's cool about them is you don't really know which kind you're planting. I mean, unless you're looking at the bag every time. But there's many varieties that have like one of them is like a light yellow with like a dark yellow little middle part. And then there's like one that's like white with like a yellow middle. I mean, I didn't even really realize there was like that many varieties.
I didn't. I kind of thought they were yellow.
I have to take some pictures for you because I've been walking around like, whoa, this is like, how does nature do that? It's like, it's such incredible combinations. It's like, why not just make it all one color? Wouldn't that be easier? But it's like, they make it so much cooler.
It's kind of like we have a plethora of hydrangeas. And
Love
hydrangeas, you
hydrangeas.
never know because it's soil, it's, how much water they got. Sometimes they're purple, sometimes they're kind of muted,
There's lots of
sometimes they're like
colors.
super bright. And I don't know, whoever lived here at one point made a big effort to plant a bunch of them. And we're not there yet. They're not blooming
Yeah.
yet, but last year it was like a crapshoot. Like, what is it gonna look
Oh, I
like?
love it. I know it's
Yeah,
the
it was
same.
fun.
The same here. We have all the rhodies, like the rhododendrons, and they have like a rainbow array of colors, and they start with red. Like at the beginning of the year, the reds bloom first. I'm not kidding. It goes in like a rainbow order. It goes like red, like peach, yellow, and the hydrangeas also. There's a lot of hybrids. So you have ones that have white, yellow, and pink or purple, and it's incredible. It's magical. Anyways,
Anyways, if you're just joining us for the first time, welcome. We know that many of you have been with us for quite a long time. We're on episode 90. Whoop whoop.
incredible.
And have such a good day is Heather and my way to unpack the absurdity of life, because boy is it absurd, and try to have some fun in the process and get to know our psyches a little bit better.
Yeah, we're trying to escape the drudgery of everyday life, trying to live it up virtually because it's kind of the only thing we can do right now.
Yeah,
So
seriously.
try to have a little fun.
Yeah, have a little fun, learn a little in the process. So, Heather, I had kind of a big week.
Me too, girl. Tell me about it.
Well, so I got my first vaccination for COVID.
Sweet.
Yeah,
How do you
and
feel?
I feel okay. I feel okay. This was a couple days ago, but I wanted to kind of explain the process because it was a little weird. I first of all, so I live in the North Bay of the Bay Area, so it's about an hour north of San Francisco or Oakland, give or take. And a friend of mine, his wife is actually pregnant right now, and they've been going through this whole thing of like, is it worth it to get vaccinated? Is it not? There's a whole different, situation going on with her. And they had decided, through their own research that yes, this was something that they were going to do. And she got an appointment at the Oakland Coliseum, which has been transformed. I mean, it used to be where the Warriors play, but also a lot of music,
Sure.
bands come through, and huge parking lot and the whole thing. And it's now a vaccination site. And he had floated this like, hey, we just got in. Here's your code. Say that you live in Alameda County. And my first reaction was like, okay, my mom has now been vaccinated. She's done. She got her
Yeah,
Pfizer's,
mine
but
too.
1 and 2, and I was just prepared to wait my turn, and I wasn't sure if it's like, oh, am I taking a spot away from somebody who needs it more than I do because I'm in good health and I'm not 65 and up, that kind of thing, or 50 and up even. Thank God, I will be eventually.
Very soon.
But yeah, not that soon, Heather.
Sooner
God.
than you think. Yeah, but
Yeah,
not that
I know, it goes quick. But it ended up, as I understand it, it's you're getting, the state has a certain amount of vaccines. They're coming from a variety of different companies, and then there's the federal aid, and so there are some vaccines. And even though there is a whole push to make this as much of a just kind of cattle call as possible, like get your vaccine and go on with your day and whatever. The problem is that they don't last forever. They
Yeah.
expire. And so at this particular venue, there were a bunch of vaccines where they're like, let's just get people vaccinated. Like, you got a code, you get in here. So I got one. I got my appointment, and it was a couple of days ago, and I had to make the appointment for kind of late in the day because I wouldn't be able to drive an hour in the
Yeah.
morning before I do like DTNS and, just all my stuff. So I was like, I got it and I was like giddy about, oh, wow, this is like really happening. And then I was like, what the hell? Why did I do this at rush hour? I mean,
God.
like, because then I'm leaving Oakland at 5.
But aren't
and
people working from home? I mean, so the traffic was bad?
I mean, sure. People say, "Oh, traffic could be worse." Yeah, it could, but honestly, I've been burned one too many times. You don't leave Oakland going north at 5 p.m. and just kind of float through.
Kind of cruise, yeah.
Yeah, but listen, that is me. I realized as I was like psyching myself out of the whole thing that I'm like, you're just kind of scared. You're just kind of
Mm-hmm.
scared that you're doing this because it's kind of weird and unusual and life is weird and all that stuff. So, anyway, I left my dog with my mom. I didn't want him to be stuck in the car if it ended up being like a really long drive.
Mm-hmm.
And went down there. And I will say that I, I was sort of like, am I gonna like cry? Like, am I gonna be like a weird baby about it? Because other people have said, oh, it's a really emotional experience. And I'm like, will it be? I
Huh.
think I'm just kind of like getting in and out.
Mm-hmm.
And I get there, and the whole place it was weird. It was truly transformed into, I mean, it looked
Sounds kind of
like
sci-fi or apocalyptic.
a little, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, and because and I was sort of like, I mean, I think I know where to drive in. I guess they'll just probably tell me where to go if I'm not in the right place. But the whole thing was laid out really well. I mean, orange cones for days. Like you're just like going in weird circles and you're like, am I even going the right way?
Mm-hmm.
And then I finally get to a point where there's two girls, two women, and you almost kind of almost looks like a car wash, where you're like driving
Yeah.
up and they're like, okay, stop, and then, we kind of go through, they make sure that I'm who I said I was. I got a little QR code kind of thing. And they were like, they were having fun. They had music playing. They were nice. Like we all got along and they were like, what arm you want it in? Are you left-handed? Which I am. But
Uh-huh.
I'm like, I am, but I don't know that that really matters. I mean, I'm not like writing long novels,
No, you're not. Not with
like
a pen or a
not
paper.
with a pen. And I've got this shoulder injury, which is also in my right side or my left side. So I'm like, well, I mean, if it's gonna hurt, and I hear that it's not really a big deal, but if it is, I kind of would rather just put it towards the bad shoulder
Yeah.
anyway. So at least my right hand is
Yeah,
all
it's a good
good.
call.
Yeah. So anyway, they gave me my shot. They took a photo of me. It was really cute. Like
It's a
one of
cute
them was like, "Do you
photo.
want me to take a photo?" And I was
Uh-huh.
like, I think I do. Yeah, let's document this. And then they say, oh, you have to then sit here for 15 minutes because they want to make sure that people who have allergic
Don't have a
reactions are
seizure or
tended
something,
to.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That wasn't really the case. I mean, I drove away from them pretty quick. There were a couple checkpoints where someone came up and was like, "Hi, let me see your ID. How you feeling? You feel
Wow.
okay? You're in a
What a trip.
car." And I was like, "Yeah, I feel okay." And I did. So,
Did the
and then
shot hurt?
I mean, I'm
It's
not,
like it feels like a bruise. I don't mind it when it goes in, but it's like the after where it's like kind of achy.
yeah.
That's when it hurts.
I definitely, this was 2 days ago and I still feel it. It's
Yeah.
tender to the touch, but I'm not sick. I don't look at needles. I'm not great with
Me
needles.
neither.
But I just look away. I know what you're doing. It
Yeah.
doesn't hurt so much. It's more psychologically, I just don't want to see it.
Yeah.
Because it's like a huge mosquito kind of thing. But yeah, I miraculously, I really didn't have a lot of traffic on the way home, and my mom was, super pumped because, of course, she, wants us all to be as healthy as possible. And so, yeah, I get my next shot in well, just under 3 weeks, and it was a pretty cool experience overall. I felt really good.
That's really
about
cool.
it.
I'm fascinated. I mean, I have no idea when I'm going to get mine, but what is the thing that comes to mind that you're most kind of pumped about to do now that once you get your second vaccination? Like what is like first on your list? To see people who've also been vaccinated or go
mean,
travel?
I don't even know. I that's a good question. I'm so used to just seeing people is problematic. You really got to think about it. There's never a big group. Everyone I know anyway, has been following that mandate for so long that I'm like, yeah, my life doesn't just like
It's hard to
magically
break
change.
that habit. I think it's going to be hard for people to break that habit.
For sure. And there are a lot of kind of inward things that I don't hate. I
Yeah.
really don't. I don't hate just kind of being more of a chill person in general. And this
Yeah.
has accelerated that perhaps, but just reminded me that I just, I like to be in my little cocoon and that's okay too. But I think there are things like my love for going to the grocery store. And sure, everyone's wearing masks and everybody is distancing appropriately. I can't think of any time where someone was just like, I won't do this,
Yeah.
kind of thing, although you hear about that. but that just being like, okay, I'm still going to be careful and do that, but I just feel that much better
Yeah, there's a
about,
kind of a sense of relief.
yeah,
Yeah.
just, I did the thing. I did my part, and yeah, it it was kind of weird. I did not cry. I was like, even afterward, I'm kind of sitting there. I'm like, am I emotional right now? And I was like, no, I'm just
That's actually
happy.
kind of interesting. Like, that must be an interesting job, though. Those ladies that you're referring to that are kind of like guiding you through this whole thing, they probably see a wide array of
Sure,
like,
sure, yeah.
reactions, which that could be, I don't know, I'm kind of fascinated by that. Yeah, I mean, I hope I can get mine soon. My mom has hers, my uncle has his. Like, those are some people that I really would like to see. But it's still going to be, I'm also in a pretty rural area, so I have no idea. I hate that word, by the way. I hate saying that word, rural. But
Well,
yeah,
I mean, that's that. I too am in a rural area. Is it the way that the word
yeah, I think
is?
it's like hard to say. It always reminds me of
Rural.
like when Tina Fey, like in 30 Rock, rural juror, it was like rural
Uh-huh.
juror. It's like a really kind of hard thing. It's not a
Yeah,
tongue
like
twister, but it's like,
right. Yeah. Like,
it's hard to
why do we make the
say.
word like
Yeah,
this? You just
God,
say rah, rah, rah,
why?
rah, rah.
But yeah, I know last episode I talked about how preoccupied and kind of spacey I've been, but I would like to set the stage here because I know that there's, sometimes I can be a little spaced out on the show and whatnot. I tend to be that kind of person who lives in my head, and I'm constantly sort of evaluating things in my head. So it kind of pulls me away from the moment. And sometimes I really have to like consciously pull myself back into the moment, active listening, all of that stuff. So, I've never been that person. I don't know. You probably know people, or Sarah, I know you've lost a lot of like accessories in the past. Like we've talked about your sunglasses, and you have to keep
Oh
track of all these
God.
little things that, I never lose stuff. I've never been that person that's lost my wallet, lost my keys. I mean, knock on wood.
Oh God.
And any
I
of
want
those
your
things.
life. I'm like, I lost Otis's ball yesterday. I'm like, great. Now I have to go to the hardware store.
Well, wait till you hear the rest of my story. You might not want my
Okay.
life. But yeah, I mean, I think I just have never been that person, but I am so that person now. It's like I left this morning, got in the car, left my purse. Yesterday, I went to a bank all the way to like the second adjacent town, left my jacket just hanging over the chair. The banker calls me, "You left your jacket here."
Oh, you left it at the
At the
bank.
bank. Yeah. So we had to go
Oh,
all the way back. And it was inconvenient, but it was like, oh my God, my sister was like, dude, I'm worried about you. Like, I've never seen you this. Cause, she knows me as a pretty organized person.
right.
I swear my brain is broken on new levels. I mean, it really is. It's crazy. And I really think that it's like the pandemic life. It's that living in a vacuum. It's having to keep track of that extra accessory, which is hard for me. Like, I feel like when I get out of the car, and I'm doing a lot more errands now. I think that's part of it. Like, I have meetings like up the, what right now, because I'm, trying to organize my dad's business. And so I'm in and out of the car like 12 times a day. So I'm like, okay, wait, keys, wallet, my paperwork, my mask, my sunglasses. And the mask thing, it's like I leave the car, my mask always falls on the ground. I mean, I've lost so many masks. I mean, who knows where they are today, and always the ones that I like the most and can breathe out of the best. But yeah, just like trying to keep track of all that stuff is making me extremely scattered. And the other thing I realized the other day that is creating this whole, broken brain on a new level is I'm learning a whole new vocabulary. I mean, literally, like it used to be like, let's roll, cut, that's a wrap, lunch break, like set, like production lingo. And now it's like deeds, affidavits, notaries. I've never worked with so many notaries. And my sister was like, I don't really understand. What do notaries do? And I'm like, yeah,
They like watch you
trusts.
sign
Yeah,
something.
they have to like officially
I don't know
stamp.
much more than she does.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, basically, they just like make it official, make paperwork official. Lawyers, like title companies. I was at like a title company, which is a company that basically, we're selling a piece of land, so it's like you have to sign like 100 pages. It's insane.
Right.
I mean, half the stuff I'm starting to learn, which is good. Like I've learned a lot in the last couple of months. However, there are still a lot of gaps in my knowledge, and like this title lady's talking to me about what these pages I'm signing. And it's like, there's a lot of lingo that I'm like, can you explain that in layman's terms? Like, I don't know what that means. and
Right.
it goes over my head. And I think that that's why, because I was sort of concerned. I'm like, okay, is this my hormones getting older? Because, you get older and you get more forgetful. You have a lot more memories to store. And so your brain can only handle so much info, right? Until it gets to like an overload. And I just think that I'm just on overload. I think it's like,
Yeah.
and so anyway, but I think I'm handling it pretty well. I think I'm really, I'm rising to the challenge, Sarah. And I would like to know from you guys out there, is your brain broken on another level? And if so, why? What's going on in your life that's different from this last year, I guess? Please email about it, please, at hi@havesuchagoodday.com.
Do it. Yeah. We love the emails that we get. We'd love to have more and incorporate them into future shows. So please do that. It's funny you mentioned just getting older and you have finite space,
Yes.
right? So it's like, okay, some of the little things fall by the
Yep.
wayside and they are little, but you're like, "Oh, I forgot my wallet?"
Yeah. No, it's
Like
like,
that
it's
sort of thing
stuff.
where it's like it can kind of derail an afternoon.
Oh, 100%. And I lately too, I've been like, my sister's like, what did you guys watch last night? And I'm like, oh my God, I don't even remember. Like, it's like, what? You can't remember what you watched last night? I think it's also like, it's the amount of lists that I have. Cause like I told you, we've talked about organization. I use Notepad. I mean, notes on my cell phone, and they update on my computer. And it's honestly the best method for me because now I have, instead of having one to-do list, I have a to-do dad list, like dad business list. I have a to-do list for my real estate agent. I have a to-do list for my lawyer. I add questions or like things I want to talk to them about, like bullet points. My tax guy, my workman. I mean, I have so many lists now. And I think it's also the uncertainty. There's a burden of uncertainty on everybody right now. Like nobody really knows what tomorrow is going to bring or when are we going to go on our next trip. And I think that there's something to say for that. Like uncertainty probably kind of like weighs on your mind in a way that it takes a toll because you have no idea where you're going to be like by fall this
Yeah.
year.
I did this really weird thing the other day. I don't even know what came over me. I was listening to a podcast, when I was on one of my long walks, and it was all about Santa Fe, like real estate and sort of Adobe
God, I
structures.
can't believe you're saying this right now, but keep going.
Okay. And I don't even remember what it was. What was I listening to? Oh, it was probably 99% Invisible.
Okay.
It would have been that show. But I'm like, yeah, I've never even been to New Mexico. I've always thought that sounded really fun. And, but like, what am I gonna do? Fly to New Mexico? Like that makes no sense. Of course I want my dog. I gotta drive.
Yeah.
And then I'm looking on the map and I'm like, okay, this is like kind of intense, but not a full across the country intense. It's
But
more
it's
of like
another state, a few states
an
over.
intense 3 to 4 days of driving each way.
Yeah.
And then I like got on Airbnb and I'm like, which is funny because I'm a host, right? But I'm like, oh, I used to be somebody who stayed in other people's houses. Just what's out there. And I'm looking, I'm like, oh my God, so cute. I should go. And then of course I was like, this is insane. I mean, first of all, I am not in a position right now even to take like a good 2 weeks off of work in order to do this like strange road trip that you never even thought about until like right this second. But yeah, I was kind of like, maybe I just put a pin in this one
Yeah.
for a minute because it actually does sound like a really cool trip. I really prefer to have a friend, or a road friend
Yeah.
when you do a trip that long, just in case you're kind of like, can you drive for a couple
It's a
hours, that kind
long
of thing.
trip, yeah.
It's a long trip. Yeah, I don't. The more I think about it, the more I'm like, I'm not trying to prove anything to
Yeah.
anybody by saying I did this by myself, even though people do that all the time and that's cool. I just
It'd be more fun with somebody, I think. I mean, I think
Yeah.
sometimes you'd be like, oh, it's nice to drive alone. But, it's really, really interesting, Sarah, because just yesterday, well, Elijah and I have been talking about Santa Fe for the year. And we've been kind of interested in potentially moving there eventually. I don't know. But just yesterday, my sister and I were driving home from some meetings. And my sister literally said, I just want to pare down these businesses, pay off some of these mortgages, and get a cute little adobe house in like New Mexico. I'm not kidding. Just yesterday, and
That's
it's funny
so
because
weird.
we've been talking about Santa Fe a lot like this last year because Elijah loves Santa Fe, and we're like, where would we move if we moved anywhere? We probably wouldn't move back to LA. I don't know. And so we're like, oh, Santa Fe, because we love the desert and cactus. And I can't believe that's such a funny thing because
That's
we have
so
these fantasies about getting a cute little adobe, a modest little bungalow.
yeah.
It's really funny. So we should road
I'll
trip.
have to send you the episode. It was really
Yes, please do.
interesting.
I think it's a hot place right now. A lot of people are talking about it, I think.
Well, so and I mean, I know very little about the entire state.
Uh-huh.
And I hate not having personal knowledge of
I know.
places where I'm like, it's my own country. Why did I
Yeah.
ever been to New Mexico? But yeah, it was a layered story about, the good and bad and, where a lot of people, have second homes. So then you kind of get these dead zones,
Yeah.
right? Because it's like, oh, the Texas people aren't here right now because they're at their big first house
Yeah.
type thing. And like, what does that do for like the there of a community?
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, well,
Well, I've been to Santa Fe. Actually, I went with my mom. I went on a road trip with my mom, like when she got a Prius when they first came out. And I remember we went all through New Mexico, went to all the different like, mountainous areas and climbed ladders into these holes in the mountain, and there's all that stuff.
wait, what? You climbed ladders into holes in the mountains?
In New Mexico and Arizona, there's a lot of those places that are like, like Mount Zion and the Carlsbad Caverns and like all these places that are like
Oh,
old Indian reservations. And you can like
got
go,
it.
they had like little homes in the rock and it's really cool. And it's a really different state. And I did go to Santa Fe. It's very cute. It's kind of what you think it would be. And I went to Albuquerque, which I didn't like as much. My buddy Mark Maron's from Albuquerque. I've always been sort of curious about exploring Albuquerque a little bit more, but I really want to go back as an adult because I was like 15 or 16 when we
Oh,
went.
okay.
This is a
Some
long
time
time
ago.
ago.
Wow, your mom had a Prius when you were
Or maybe it wasn't 15. Maybe I was like 18. I don't know, but I was a teen. Or God, I don't even remember. Maybe I was in my early 20s. But God, see, memory.
Your brain's broken.
My brain is so broken. But I remember the thing that I remember, and talk about memory, the things that stick with you. I do remember climbing those ladders, and I remember a rattlesnake, and I remember listening to Van Morrison and Cat Stevens like the whole time, like in my mom's car with like a tape cassette or something.
That's really funny because the two of them, I've always gotten confused.
Yeah.
I know who Van Morrison is, and I know who Cat Stevens is. Cat Stevens is the one who changed his name, right?
Yes.
But like, and they're not the same artist, but
No, but they're from that same era. And
yeah, totally.
I totally get that.
Oh, that's funny.
I love that era, that kind of folky stuff.
Well, let's all move to Santa Fe.
Let's
It's funny.
do it.
A friend of mine who she is a reporter in LA now, but we grew up together. And she has always just been, I mean, she's on the news track and was working in the Bay Area for a while and kind of couldn't get an anchor spot. And this is very inside baseball for people who don't work in this industry, but it's like you often have to move to a smaller market.
Yeah.
Market meaning, the number of people who, are in a particular city in order to kind of, I don't know, work your way up to the point that then you'd be an anchor in LA. And she was in Albuquerque for some years, just doing exactly that.
Wow.
And I remember I never visited. I wish I had. And I would always be like, how's it going? And she's like, Albuquerque's whatever, but Santa Fe is so cool.
Yeah.
And I was like, we should go. And like, like climb a rock or, get a facial. I don't know, whatever.
I'll go to Santa
but,
Fe and get a
yeah, I never
facial.
did. So it's always kind of been in the back of my mind. It's
Yeah.
like, I bet you would like this, Sarah, because I really do like the desert.
Me too. I'm like kind of fascinated by it. Maybe a pied a terre, as I've been dreaming about for years. We'll see. It's going to be an interesting year, that's for sure.
Well, it's been an interesting week. Vaccinations aside, I know I've been kind of on my high horse about like, I'm doing all my Fitbit stats. I'm being really healthy. I'm drinking so much water. Everything, all the broccoli I eat must be, making me, I'll live forever. And last weekend, I went over to a friend's house and they live I mean, it's about an hour drive from here. And we were going to have dinner. And so I stayed over because, it's just kind of far drive and didn't want to drive in the dark on my way back. And they made all this great food, but it was kind of heavy. They're really good cooks. So it's like the food is good.
Yeah.
And then there was like a large bowl of chocolates, little individually wrapped chocolates, and I had one because I'm not a huge sweets person, but I was like, oh, this is really good. I want another one. And I ate like 10. And, at that point you're like, I've eaten a very, very large candy bar.
Yeah.
Because individually they're just little squares, but together it's quite a bit. And, and I've been abstaining from anything red wine stuff for a while, but I had like a half of a glass of one because they actually make their own wine, but they just have good wine around, and it's just, I was like, it'll be fine, right? Sure enough, in the morning, after like a large pasta dinner, all the chocolate and a little red wine, I mean, I wasn't down for the count, but I didn't feel great.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, my body is just like, why did you do this?
What were your symptoms?
We've been nothing. Just sort of like, I'm just sort of like lethargic
Sluggish,
and tired. And, like I want starch because my body's, like had too much of it already. And then you kind of get into that weird cycle. And I mean, again, not the end of the world. I survived, but I was like, wow, it's amazing how like crappy I felt, even though sure I ate too much sugar, but I didn't. I mean, it wasn't even like, oh, we stayed up late. I mean, I was like, I got like a solid 7 hours of sleep. It was just having been on like a very clean track for so long, and then being like, let me like eat some junk. I really felt it. I felt like crap.
Yeah, and it bums me out actually. Last night we had pizza and I had a little bit of wine. I didn't have any sugar, but I have really noticed my sensitivity to carbs now and sugar, and I don't drink a ton of alcohol, but I do drink almost every night, like at least like half a glass. But yeah, it's kind of bums me out, and it's probably going to get harder as we get older because your body, your body doesn't want it. And every little anything that you have health wise, it always tells you cut down on caffeine, cut down on alcohol, cut down on sugar. And it's like, well, shit, what can I enjoy then?
Right.
I mean,
Well,
come on.
I mean, there's other vices, Heather. Have you heard of?
That's true.
No, I'm just kidding.
Freebasing? I'm just kidding.
Yeah. I mean, freebasing, I don't think it's sugary. No. Everyone out there, we're kidding. But yeah, I remember my parents were never drinkers when I was a kid, and it just was not weird to me. They just weren't drinkers. And there were like their own reasons for being that way, but I was just sort of like, oh yeah, like other people's parents like go out with like friends, where you have like a dinner party crew and like drink. Like my parents just do not do that.
Yeah.
And if they also didn't do lots of things with other adults that I was not included in. So it was rare. I mean, it happened sometimes, but it was rare for my parents to be like, we need to get a babysitter for Sarah. We're going to this place and then we'll be back later kind of thing. I was a babysitter for lots of people who were very much like that. And I always remember even like being an 8th grader being like, I mean, where are you going? Where are you going? Like, are you really like your social life is this packed? It didn't seem normal to me, although I was, happy to get my $20 at the end of the night kind of thing. But yeah, so obviously all of our lives have slowed down so much lately, over the past year, and it really has been a year at this point. It's been a year. And I was so happy to hang out with friends last weekend, and yet I was like, okay, I'm starting to see where my boundaries are, where it's like I just can't be like, oh, this tastes good, and so I'm going to eat like this many more chocolates. I know that red wine hurts my head. Even a little bit will just hurt my head. Do you want to have a fun day tomorrow, or do you not want to have a fun day tomorrow? And it's just not, it's not I don't have to have that like conversation with myself anymore. It's like, I either just say F it, or I don't. That's it. There's no conversation. There's no getting around it. And I'm okay with that. In fact, in a way, it's like, it makes a lot of decisions for me easier.
Sure.
Because I'm like, I just want to feel as good as possible. I want to
Yeah.
go on a run tomorrow.
It's sort of
You
like it
know?
simplifies things a bit.
Yeah. And like I had mentioned at the beginning of the show that I ordered pizza on the internet the other day because I was just like, ugh, I just want pizza. I'm just like, meh. And it was $70.
How is that? So it was just one pizza?
It was a
Was it
very
a
large
gourmet
pizza.
pizza?
It was a gourmet pizza.
Yeah.
It was a big vegetarian, extra large pizza for me.
Did you eat the whole thing?
I did, but it took a couple days. But I did. Nothing
Wait,
was
so
wasted.
How much was this? So, but what was the delivery fee? Because it was like Uber Eats
Yeah.
or
Well,
something
so
like
this
that.
is where they get you, right?
Yeah.
It's like you kind of, and this is like, see, these are the moments also where I'm like, it doesn't take much to derail me because I'm like, I've got food in the fridge, like good food.
Sure.
I like cooking. What's my problem? Oh no, I'd rather just order a pizza that's going to take over an hour to get here and be like expensive and like I'll feel terrible afterwards.
so
Okay,
fun,
let's
though.
do that. Yeah. So, but you look it up and I'm like, I want like a super veggie. I didn't want any meat. I just wanted pizza. And it was what it was. And I kind of like say like, all right, well, it's like in the 40s. Like, it's kind of a lot, right? When you think of getting a pizza, you're like, oh, it'll be like $20.
$20, yeah.
It's definitely more than that. But I'm like, well, delivering. And of course, I live in the stick. So everything that is delivered is like, there's no pizza place around here. Has to come from like kind of far.
Sure.
But then it's like delivery fee and then tip. And of
Totally.
course I'm going to tip the folks.
Of course.
Of course. And I would never, I mean, unless something terrible happened, I wouldn't even think twice about it. And then you get your receipt later and you're like, wow, okay. That became a $70 meal. Like,
Yeah.
sure, it was so much pizza
No alcohol.
that it did feed me for a couple of
Sure.
days.
Couple
So,
meals.
when you cut it in half, it's like, okay, maybe not that. But I was kind of grossed out with myself. I really was.
Well, it makes for good fodder, though. And it's a
It
good
does.
story. And life is full of choices, Sarah, and trade offs. And that's the
Isn't it,
thing. I
though?
mean, seriously, it's like at the end of the day, this is for our Discord listeners. At the end of the day, life is full of
when
trade offs.
all is said and
when
done.
all is said and done.
Right. Okay, I
So
guess we've
amusing.
said it all. Yeah, the day's over. We're done.
Oh, boy. Well,
I gotta
Sarah,
love it.
I have a burning question for you.
Okay.
I was just thinking the other day as I was trimming my cat's butt hairs because I have
As
a
I take a
cat.
sip of coffee, I'm like, oh, okay.
Throwing up in my mouth a little bit. I have long-haired cats, and one of them, the younger one, Ziggy Piglet, he has some trouble sometimes because his hair is so long back there.
Things
He's
get
just,
caught.
Yeah, he's just like a cotton ball, and so it like gets stuck. And then it's like I can always tell because he kind of will circle around me, and like I think he knows that I can help him, but he's like embarrassed kind of. It's just this whole dance he
Aw,
does.
buddy.
It's really cute. But I wanted to ask you, since you have a cat and a dog, which pet do you think is more kind of disgusting to own, like on a filth level, like a dog
gosh.
or a cat, like what it takes to clean up after them, kind of
Yeah.
everything.
Well, so I've got a cat and a dog. Cat Lucy is she'll be 14 in April. So she's getting up in her
She's an old
years,
lady.
but she's chugging along. And she's always been really good. I mean, she's an indoor cat, so there's a litter box, and that's something that I definitely have to make sure it doesn't get gross, right?
Yeah.
But that's on me. She's not a gross cat at all. She does have some health problems, and so she will occasionally like throw up her breakfast and then kind of look at me, and I'm like, I'm not cleaning that up, and then she'll just like eat it again, which is pretty disgusting.
Well, yeah, no, it's
But that's
actually
just like
what
cat
birds
stuff.
do. I mean,
Well,
mother
and also
birds
I'm like,
feed their...
this is veterinarian food. Eat it.
Yeah.
Like, don't waste it. Eat
Yeah.
that. The only reason that ever becomes an issue is she has kitty cancer, she has lymphoma, and she takes drugs and it is well maintained, so it's not like a death sentence, but it's something where I have to be really careful with Otis the dog because she doesn't take that medicine every day. She only takes it every other day. And so the days that the medicine goes into her body, if there's a barf thing,
Oh
I have to
yeah,
make
Otis will eat it
really
up.
sure because it's like, yeah,
Yeah,
like I'm gonna like kill my dog
yeah.
because he's gonna be eating something that he shouldn't be eating. So there's a little bit of that going on. I'm making it sound dramatic. It's usually never an issue. I mean, she's not, barfing all the time. With Otis, I mean, he's a big old dog. He has very short hair. He does shed a lot. If anyone is ever like, oh, short haired dogs, it will be great because they won't have hair all over the house, don't listen.
Honestly, I would have to agree with that. I all the short-haired cats I had when I was a kid, I like prefer long-haired cats because they don't shed as much. Like my short-haired tabbies, there was like little pointy hairs all over. But yeah, it's interesting. I think it's for
Yeah.
me it's the other way around, at least for the two that I have now.
Yeah, I mean Sam, who is my late kitty, who passed over the Rainbow Bridge in 2019. He was a big, thick dude.
He was.
He had long hair. He
I
did
miss
have
that
his
guy.
shedding seasons,
Sure.
where I'd be like, "Wow, it's like a whole cat just fell off of you. Thanks." But yeah, he wasn't a huge shedder. It was actually more Lucy. But Otis, he has very short. He's almost all white, although he has a little bit of browns and spots and stuff. But he just, I mean, the shedding is real.
Yeah.
And so I don't consider that gross. I'm just like, I got to be on top of it. Vacuum once a week minimum.
Yeah.
And if I don't, I'm just like, ugh, it's just, it gets ahead of you so
Sure.
quickly.
Especially when you wear
And
black, it's like all over you.
oh, and I mean, my favorite color. I mean,
I know.
I couldn't have gotten a worse dog, but it's we deal with the hand we're dealt.
We sure do.
But yeah, I mean, I don't totally love picking up dog poop. That's a reality of life,
Yeah.
and my dog is 90 pounds, so you can imagine when when
Big
he's really
steamers.
ready to go. There's a lot going on, but I'm so used to it. Like
Yeah.
I don't even think. I don't know. I can't. I'm not really grossed out by anything.
Do you bathe Otis?
Infrequently,
Yeah.
I do. He's a very non-stinky dog,
Uh-huh.
and I think a lot of that has to do with he's young, his teeth aren't rotten.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of kind of dog things that it's breed oriented for sure, but it's also
Yeah.
age.
Yep.
And he just doesn't. I mean, even if he got muddy, it kind of just falls off his fur because his fur is so short and kind of dry.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't. He's not a very dirty dog.
My gardener has an adorable little pupper named Margie, and she's more of a long hair. And we play with her in the garden. She comes over once a week, and I'm always throwing balls and sticks for her.
Yeah.
And she will literally like eat the chicken manure in the garden. She'll get her whole schnoz in the ground and like eat it and roll around in the mud. I mean, and she'll jump on you and just like ruin all your clothing and whatever. But welcome to owning a dog. But yeah, I was just sort
Yeah.
of thinking about it because I mean, maybe it does have a lot to do with like the short hair, long hair thing, and like cats tend to lick other cats' rear ends maybe more than dogs, but I guess dogs kind of do that too.
Oh, Heather.
yeah,
come
I mean,
on.
yeah,
I mean, no. This is what dogs do.
cats do it
Dogs
too.
this-
I see my cats doing
Cats
it.
do it too, I'm sure. But like, literally, being a dog is like, is there another dog? Let me sniff your butt.
That's so true. Yeah, it's definitely
that's
a
my
biological
job.
thing. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
your goal on Earth. But it's just funny. It made me think about this because I have to literally trim their back hairs off their legs and off their butts. It's like I'm their little groomer.
I've never had to do that. I will say, I mean, even after I'm like, oh, Otis, he's so great, whatever. He is, and I've talked about this in the past, so forgive me for being repetitive, but he has a sensitive tummy, big time. He has dry food and wet food that is both vet. You got to get a prescription. It cost me an arm and a leg. I don't even know, how I even do it. But all of the things that I can do for him, I am trying to do. That said, he will have a bad day.
Yeah.
And I don't ever really know what's going on. I mean, I've gotten hip to like, if he seems to be rummaging around, like in a hole at the park or whatever, I'm like, get out of there. Like whatever's in there that you like, just, we're not doing that. But you can't keep a dog from like chewing on some grass here and there.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
And he, the other day, he barfed in the house on a rug, which is, in the rug's defense, the rug has been around. It's been kind of like the main traffic area
Sure.
in like several of my apartments, and it has seen better days. But at that point, I was like, okay, we're burning this rug. The rug has got to go. And now I need a new rug
Yeah.
because I can't just have like bare floor in that, the whole
Oh
surface area.
man,
It's
the
just like
rugs and all the barf and oh god,
the
I
rugs and the barf. And sometimes you can, yeah, I know this is like, I hope you're not eating lunch when you're listening to this, everybody. But, sometimes you're like, wow, that cleaned up great. Like it
or
was
it's like a
never even
total
there.
disaster.
Or it's a total disaster. And I've gotten to the point now where I'm like, this has got to
Yeah.
go. It's just, I'm actually kind of grossed out it just being
Yeah.
there.
Like you wouldn't
Because
lay down on it and take a nap.
no, no. And yet it's kind of like right under my
Yeah.
couch, where I hang out somewhat often. So
Totally. Well,
yeah.
I would have to say, I mean, I would say probably if you were to generalize, because we're full of sweeping generalizations these days, cats groom themselves. I mean, I would say that in itself makes them probably cleaner in a general sense. And they have like a built-in brush, which is their tongue. But the reason why I'm thinking about this is because I want to get a dog and I want a big dog. And we have a little dog. We have a little terrier. He's adorable and really low maintenance. And I'm always telling my boyfriend what kind of dog I want to get. And all the dogs I want are like big dogs, big furry dogs, and they look like bears. And he's like, I don't think you understand how much work it is to have a big dog. Like, Frank, our little terrier, is so easy. And I'm like, I know. And I don't even know if I'm ready for that. Like, mud and trampled in the house and all this. But I still want a pooch, and I think it's all worth it in the end. At the end of the day, Sarah, it's worth it.
When all is said and done, you
Maybe
might
we
want a
should
dog. Well,
explain.
listen,
Maybe we should explain to the rest of our audience what this whole thing is all about, because only our Discorders know.
okay, so I will I'll this will be a short version. I had tweeted the other day, and I don't even know, like it wasn't toward anybody. It just sometimes a
You weren't
thought
calling
strikes me
anyone
and I'm
out.
like, this is a tweet.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was that I feel like people call things iconic way too much. Like it's
Totally.
like an iconic thing is a specific thing. Like if you like a hamburger, it is not iconic. Like it's being overused
Like,
the way
don't
people
throw that around all willy nilly.
well, and there are certain, remember 10 years, maybe more ago, when everyone was like, that is so amazing. I mean, that's
I'm guilty of
amazing. Well, I'm
that.
like, well, and so am I. So am I. But there are certain things where I'm like, you know what? I think we're overdoing
Yeah, I
this a
agree.
little bit. It's an amazing, the word is
special.
the word that it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's supposed to be special. It's like, it's not just like, I mildly liked my walk today. It was amazing.
I think I'm actually guilty about saying like I love things a lot, and I think you get in these weird word ruts where you're like, you respond in the same way to stuff. Like, oh, I love that, I like that, or certain emoji or whatever.
Totally. So anyway, it was this iconic thing, and somebody in our Discord. And by the way, if you're not part of our Discord, please become a patron. We'd love to have you. But they had said, yeah, it's kind of funny. There's certain things that I don't like either. And then we started to talk about what are the phrases that you like the least. And one of the phrases that I like the least is, well, when all is said and done, I like even less than at the end of the
Yeah, me
day.
too.
But I feel like both of those things are like, they're just, you're assuming a lot that somehow I'm just gonna like come to terms with whatever
Yeah.
I might be thinking about because it's the end of the day. Or I've said all and I've done
It's
all
such a
that I could.
final, like it's very finality sort of based.
Well, and it's a term that anytime you say it, like if you were to say that, I'd be like, yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah,
I do say
get
that
it.
a lot at the end of the day.
But and trust me, when you say it, I don't even think about it.
Sure.
I'm like, oh, I just get the point that you're making.
Well, you're not being like, God, Heather always says this. Fuck."
No, I don't. I really
know.
don't. But if someone's like, well, what are the phrases that are actually kind of annoying to you? I'm like, those just don't make a lot of
Yeah.
sense to me. They just don't make a lot of sense.
I know
So anyway,
lately I'm
yeah.
definitely using a lot of, like, I don't like the corporate speak, like those, like, get our ducks in a row and let's have a think on it. I mean, even though it works really well when, it works, I guess, but I have been saying low hanging fruit a lot, which I used to hate, but it works so well for what I'm doing right now and I like the way it rolls off the tongue. I think I say things, a lot of the things that I choose to say, I just like the way it feels to say them. And I may not be using the exact right like word or phrase, but I just like the way it rolls off the tongue. Anyways, Sarah, I'm actually curious. I have a question for y'all out there. I mean, I know we ask a lot of you every show, and have you done your homework? There's a lot of homework we've been doling out. But I want to know, do you guys like our acronym HSGD? Would you like to have a hat with that on it?
Ooh.
Because we've been thinking about this for a long time, and I think we want to set a goal, and we don't really know what that is yet, but I'm going to talk to Sarah offline. But I think it would be really fun to have like a little trucker hat or a ball cap that has our acronym.
Sure.
Would you guys wear it? Or would you
Yeah.
prefer a mug? I don't know. Let us know.
I mean, I love podcasts. I'm a fan of
The pods.
lots of podcasts that I'm not part of. And I always feel like proud
Me too.
to, like Ear Hustle, one of my favorite podcasts ever. And I've got an Ear Hustle shirt. I also have a mug.
Nice.
Because I like mugs. But when I'm like out and about, I actually don't get people being like, oh, I love that show too, as much as I thought I would. Also, I'm just not out and about all that much lately. But when that does happen, I'm like super proud to spread the gospel.
Oh, totally.
And so
And you're
that would be
representing.
an HSGD. Like I like the idea.
I like it too.
Yeah,
I like our acronym, but I would love to hear from you guys if you would wear a
Yeah.
hat, because we could create a hat.
We could.
And it would be super fun. I would totally wear it around town because, see, I wear ball caps all the time now, just to kind of keep the sun away from my face, and if I'm out in the garden hiking or whatever.
Yeah, there's a little bit, when you talk about merchandise, because a lot of shows obviously offer merchandise. Sometimes people don't. And maybe you think like, oh, well, why would every show have that? It gets it can be somewhat problematic because what you have to do is kind of like buy the merchandise in advance and then hope that you sell it and then everybody wins.
ship
But
it.
if you don't sell it, then you're kind of like,
Yeah.
now we're out a little bit of money.
And you have to buy in bulk.
Heather
Like,
and
I
I-
don't think you can just buy 10 hats. You have to buy like 50 or something.
Yeah, it depends on who you're working
Yeah.
with. But in general, it's sort of like we would love to gauge your interest.
Yes, exactly.
Because if there's not a lot of interest, then we probably won't do
Yeah.
it. But if there is, then I think that could be really cool. And
Super
we could all
fun.
take photos and make it an Instagram account or
I
something.
love that. That's a great idea, Sarah. Speaking of
Speaking of patrons,
Speaking of patrons, if you have not been to our page, which I'd be sort of surprised by now if you have not, patreon.com/have such a good day. It's where you can scope us out and join at many interesting levels. One in particular is our $5 and up patron level, where you can chat with us pretty much 24/7. I mean, I can't say we're going to be chatting with you at 2 a.m., but maybe your
when all
time.
is said and done, I'm going to bed, Heather.
At the end of the day.
No, it's true. It's true. We're having such a great time in Discord, so the more the merrier. Please join us if you can. We also have some new folks that have bumped up their Patreon levels.
It's very exciting. It's been an exciting week.
It is very exciting. We want to start calling more of you out because we're just so appreciative and you're all the best. Jerry Brace, aka Embraceware, bumped up their pledge. Christian Noble also bumped up their pledge, and let's all welcome Gabrielle Cohen, our newest patron.
Oh yeah, new name.
Yeah.
I love it. We got to get these guys up on our
I'd call you
wall
Gabby,
of
but
fame.
I don't know. Gabrielle.
I like that name, Gabrielle. Actually, you don't hear
it's a
that
great
very
name.
often.
Gabriella. It reminds me of like you probably have like a really cool art collection.
Totally. Very pretty name.
Yeah.
Well, welcome all y'all. We are so pumped to have you, and we're at like what? How many patrons now? Gosh,
104?
Sweet.
104? I mean, listen, we want 404. Haha, get
Yeah.
it? Nerd joke.
But
But,
my sister keeps threatening to join. She's been threatening to join for like 2 years. I'm like, okay, it's due time, Vanessa. Join.
Yeah, it takes you it doesn't take you that long.
Exactly.
I mean, if you want to join.
She's going to do it, and it's going to be great.
Well, listen, we love y'all. We hope you had such a good week. And perhaps this was the icing on the cake. And
Cherry on the Sunday.
we're just going to do the whole thing again next week. So, like it or not, we'll be back, mother effers.
Have such a good days. We love you, and I will be Heather from here on out.
I will also remain Sarah.
Have such a good day.